Today we are going to have a conversation with your favorite college football columnist, that be Spencer Hall. I gotta bump the microphone every time. And I'm really excited about that, but I'm also going to take on this question and this idea about which of these 9 teams, which I will outline in detail, have the best opportunity to knock off this seemingly unbeatable, unstoppable Alabama football team. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
I'm RJ Young, and this is
Fight me.
What's up, kid folks? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time. And today we are going to look at which of these 9 teams have an opportunity to knock off Alabama. Which one has the best case? Which one would we bet on to beat this seemingly unstoppable Alabama team? And also we're going to talk with Spencer Hall about the fun teams in college football and some of the things that he's seen throughout the season, as well as what his Florida Gators are doing and what he thinks my Oklahoma Sooners are doing. But first, I have to say thank you to everyone who bought a copy of Let It Bang. That is my book. It is available wherever books are sold. If you are the kind of person who writes Amazon customer reviews, I would appreciate it if you go there, you write 5 stars, write it's a good book. That'd be nice. Also, if you haven't bought the book, please buy it. It matters. It's that kind of a book. All right, now, which of these 9 teams has the best argument to knock off Alabama? And those 9 teams would be Ohio State, Florida, Georgia, Texas, LSU, Michigan, hitting the mic, man, Notre Dame, Clemson, and Oklahoma. And I chose to take a look at 2 statistics as well as schedules and marquee losses versus marquee wins and all those sorts of things, and then just see what the schedule is as it lays out in front of these teams and what it is they have that they might be able to use to beat up on Alabama. So let's get started with that. So the first team for which I want you to
Fight me.
is Ohio State. Now we all know Ohio State got mollywopped, got skull dragged, got its nose rubbed in the dirt in West Lafayette by the Purdue Boilermakers. Rondale Moore, thank you for the 37 plus fantasy points that earned me the victory. But also, thank you for embarrassing Urban Meyer, who doesn't deserve to have his job and yet has his job because, well, winning football games is more important than curbing domestic violence abuse at your place of business and firing all of those people that might be involved in such heinous actions. But you know what they hate more at Ohio State? Losing football games. You lost to Purdue, which ain't the way that Ohio State Buckeye fans want to go out. So I'll go ahead and just say, Urban Meyer loses to Jim Harbaugh and his khakis. Ooh, it's going to be hard to keep Urban Meyer on staff up there, man. But rest assured, Urban Meyer would get a job somewhere else. I just don't think it would be Ohio State. He lost to Michigan. Plus, Ohio State ranks number 12th in the country in yardage per play at 6.6, but they rank 41st in scoring defense at 22.9. And getting 49 dropped on you by the Purdue Boilermakers ain't going to help that much. And while Dwayne Haskins is a special passer, and I am particularly enthused to watch him throw the ball in traffic, I just didn't see on the back end or on the defensive side of the ball that they could handle the kind of athletes that Alabama would throw their way. In particular, the wideouts that are just running down the field. I don't think they can get pressure on Tua, and we all know that Tua has been demigodding all season. Between him and Kyler Murray, you're going to break college football. And the next is another 6-1 team. That would be Florida. And Florida, I don't know exactly what to do with them right now, because at first it didn't feel like they could score points on teams that were good, and then they did that. Now, Tennessee ain't good, but Vanderbilt ain't bad, and I saw them put up over 500 yards of offense against Vanderbilt, and I know what kind of running back Pirine is. But they ain't exactly world beaters when we're talking about yardage per play. They rank number 29 at 6 yards per play. But where they're really outstanding is scoring defense. They rank 14th in the country at 18.3 points per game. That is stodgy. But if you were going to play this team against Alabama, you're going to say that defense is going to stop Tua and the boys from doing what they want to do. Maybe, but then you have to score. And I'm not sure that they can score, because the thing that folks seem to just gloss over this year, which is really weird when we're talking about a Nick Saban Alabama team, is that they're still plenty good on defense, man. They got 26 sacks, 12 interceptions, and 17 takeaways, and they give up just a little bit over 300 yards of offense to the teams that they play. Now, you can also make an argument that they ain't played nobody, that all they've played is Jimbo and the Farmers down there in College Station, and they ain't bad, but they ain't good either. And we all know Jimbo will figure it out, because Jimbo's that kind of an offensive mind. Just saying that Texas A&M as being the bar for what is a marquee victory is kind of low. But we also are watching Tua do these things where it seems that the man cannot be made to make a bad pass or make a bad decision. And that is another reason for why I don't really think that having a number 14 scoring defense, while outstanding and great, is going to do enough to challenge that team. Next 6-1 team is Georgia. And after what I saw Georgia do against LSU, I don't really believe in Georgia like that anymore, man. And plus, Georgia's got to play this Florida team that I just talked about. So those two teams will sort each other out. But Jake Fromm is your quarterback. And I say that he's your quarterback because Kirby Smart had every opportunity to bring Justin Fields into that game. And Justin Fields is the kind of 5-star quarterback that folks feel like could be better than Trevor Lawrence. That's that feeling. He's on the level of Kyler Murray when you're talking about an athlete. And Kirby Smart just didn't bring him in there. But I felt if you were going to bring a new guy in, that LSU game was the time to do it, because LSU's defense was giving Jake Fromm and the boys the business. And man, I think Spencer actually hit on this in a column he wrote, but Joe Burrow running free for 50 plus yards should not be a thing that happens, as Spencer said, without a police escort, especially in the middle of a Georgia defense. And yes, Georgia is number 11 in yardage per play at 6.7. And yes, they're number 17 in the country in scoring defense at 19 points per game. I just don't see how you're going to stop that team in Alabama and Tua from doing what they want to do, and I don't think you're good enough on offense to keep up. The next team is Texas, and this is laughable, and not just because I'm an OU fan, because they're number 73 in yardage per play at 5.3, which puts them just ahead of Kentucky and Army and just behind Miami of Ohio. That ain't the kind of offense they thought they were going to bring in down there at Texas, is it? But also, they're number 42 in scoring defense, giving up 23 points a game. And I know that they play in the Big 12, like Oklahoma plays in the Big 12, where the stigma is we don't play defense and all teams do is throw the ball around and all they do is score points, and it's a flag football league. Well, TCU would tell you differently, and so would Iowa State, and so would Oklahoma after the TCU game, but that's not a conversation that national folks really want to have. But also, I don't really think Texas has been tested outside of Oklahoma. And Oklahoma put up 45 on a team that gives up 23 a game, right? Now, we'll get into Oklahoma later and its defensive woes, and nobody's more woke to those than me. But Texas also has a tremendously tough schedule in the back end. They still got to play Iowa State. They still got to play West Virginia. They still got to play Oklahoma State. Any one of those teams can peel the cap back, and you wouldn't be surprised to find out that Oklahoma State in the Barry Sanders unis are going to go get one against Texas in Stillwater on primetime 7 o'clock Saturday night. Just, it's setting up for Tom Herman to get embarrassed in Oklahoma, whether he likes it or not. And I don't believe in Texas as an offense. I get that he wants to ride with Sam Hargy Ellinger as their quarterback, and I get that Shane Buechele has been a credible backup quarterback, but that ain't the kind of offense you thought you would see there. The offense is Colin Johnson, LJ Humphrey, and Devin Duvernay, because they're trees, and if you throw the ball within reach, they're going to come down with it because they're just going to bully you and sun you into submission, and Keontae Ingram is actually a pretty decent tailback. Trey Watson, I could take him or leave him, and the defense is not bad to watch, right? Doesn't feel like they should be ranked number 42 in the country, but that's what they are. Also, this Texas team, they go up against Alabama, they're going to lose by 35. I think this is one of the worst teams in this conversation about could they match up against Bama and win. Next team is LSU, which I would argue is one of the teams that actually could match up with Bama and win, but that's only if the game is low scoring because LSU can't really move the ball like that. They rank number 93 in yardage per play at 5.1 because, well, Joe Burrow doesn't want to turn the ball over. They want to run the ball when they can, and they want to let the defense win. To wit, the number 9 scoring defense in the country is LSU, giving up a paltry 17.3 points. And to wit, the number 9 scoring defense in the country is LSU, giving up 17.3 points per game. Now, this is a team that very much has taken on Ed Orgeron's personality. And I kind of dig that because Ed Orgeron is a movie character come to life as a college football coach. And he's not the kind of guy that you would ever expect to assume the head job. He's a defensive line coach, and he will always be a defensive line coach, and he will always be Pete Carroll's defensive line coach. This is a dude that took the job at Ole Miss, walked into the room full of all the football players, offense, defense, quarterbacks, running backs, linebackers, all those dudes, and said to the room, "I'm Ed Orgeron, and I hate quarterbacks." Meat Market by Bruce Feldman. Pick it up. It's awesome. Great look into recruiting if you are not a recruitant like myself, or you're trying to get into why is everybody into these 4, 5, 3, 2, 1 star kids, and what does it mean? Pick it up. It's a great book. And we'll introduce you to my man, Ed Orgeron, who does not care to score points. He only cares to sack quarterbacks. And you can see that is how they play football at LSU. And that's one of the reasons why I think they can match up against Alabama and win. Because I think this is going to be the first team Alabama sees that could actually get to Tua and disrupt what Tua wants to do. But it ain't likely. And it's not one that they could probably win if they can't score points and they can't move the ball themselves. I don't see a 9-6 game is what I'm saying. This is going to be like 9-6 in the first half, maybe just the first quarter even, but it's going to end up something like 37-12 because LSU can't score, and with Alabama this year, it's only a matter of time. The next team is Michigan at 7-1, and I think they actually have a good argument for matching up with Bama too because they can play defense. That's the number 4 scoring defensive team in the country, giving up a paltry 14.4 points per game. And it is another team that has taken on the personality of its head coach. Jim Harbaugh, who was a quarterback, actually doesn't really want to throw the ball like that. He wants to run the ball with 2 tight ends and play defense, and Karan Higdon can do that. Now, Shea Patterson, I don't know that he's that kind of quarterback because I watched him fumble away an opportunity to beat Notre Dame, or at least tie Notre Dame, earlier this year. But that might be the kind of gunslinger guy you need to offset what Jim Harbaugh wants to do, which is just run the ball and play defense. That also plays into their yardage per play. But they're not as bad as you would think. They're actually the number 24 team in the country in that. And I would not expect that from them. But then I watched the Nebraska game, so I can understand how that stat might be a little bit inflated. And outside of Notre Dame, have they really been tested? I don't know, but I know that this Ohio State team is going to test that defense, and that's what we really want to see out of Michigan, because if they can shut down that Ohio State team, I think they have a really good argument for how they could shut down Tua and that Alabama offense, play some defense, hold on to the ball, let Karan Higdon carry the ball about 30 times, and maybe win a game 24-17. But I need to see what they do against Ohio State before I'm comfortable saying that. Next team is Notre Dame, which is undefeated, 7-0. Also might be as garbage as Texas. Matter of fact, that's a bowl game I'd watch. Texas versus Notre Dame. Maybe in, I don't know, whatever Big 12 bowl would get Notre Dame in there with Texas, I'd be for. I'd watch that. I'd watch them beat up on each other and say the Texas Bowl or something. Because this is the number 46 team in yardage per play, which ranks them just ahead of South Carolina and just behind Louisiana Monroe. I don't know that that's where you want to be, but they can also play defense. In particular, Jerry Tillery can play defense. They rank number 15 scoring defense, giving them 18.7 points per game, and they have had games where you would be believing, like you would be singing the Journey song out loud, They got a W against a Michigan team we all thought was pretty good, and it's turning out to be pretty good. And they got a W against a Stanford team that we all thought was pretty good, and they skull dragged them. Virginia Tech didn't have their best quarterback, but they also mollywopped Virginia Tech. And if they keep rolling through their schedule the way that they have been, yeah, straight up college football playoff, and they might be the 4 seed versus the 1 seed Alabama, and we get to see how this actually play out. Tell you how it actually play out. Alabama wins by 3 touchdowns. Look, they got a bunch of big, strong dudes at Notre Dame, and it was the right move to make Ian Book the starting quarterback over Brandon Wimbush. He's got 11 TDs to 3 picks. Wimbush had 1 passing TD for 4 picks. I can understand why you make the move and why it's paying off. But when I look at their skill position players, I don't see much. I see big, tall, wide receivers. I see guys that can go get the ball. And I see an offensive line that's actually pretty outstanding. But in the way of running the ball, in the way of not being one-dimensional, I don't really see that out of Notre Dame. I see a team that could play some defense, but that might be about it. And I don't know that, again, they can keep up with what Alabama is doing offensively, because not only do they turn into a track meet, they turn into a track meet in a hurry. Next team is Clemson, who probably today, believe it or not, has the best opportunity to whip Alabama today. This is one of the best offensive teams that move in the football. Number 7 in the country in yards per play, averaging 7 yards per play, and one of the best defensive teams in the country. Ranked number 5 in scoring defense, giving up a little bit more than 2 touchdowns per game. Why did we let Brent Venables go? Oh, that's right, we didn't. Bob brought Mike back, and then, Dabo goes up to Brent and says, I got this big bag of money. Do you want it? And he's like, I might, but I kind of got a good thing here at Oklahoma. You do? Because I feel like they just brought in a dude there that they're going to make you share the duties with. And he's like, well, it worked real well when we were co-dudes, back in the day. And he's like, well, back in the day, were you calling all the shots? Did you get to do everything you wanted? Did you get somebody to leave you alone? Did they also offer you 7 figures to coach one side of football? Brent Venables was like, you know what? No, that didn't happen. Let me come over there. Oh yeah, let's build a national champ. That's what they got going on at Clemson right now. They got first-round picks on the defensive line. They have a very sound and solid defense, particularly in the trenches. And Trevor Lawrence is turning out to be a better quarterback than Kelly Bryant, we all think he's going to be a first-round pick in 3 years. But more importantly, Travis Etienne is averaging 8.5 yards per carry. So it ain't like they just got to throw the ball to Hunter Renfrow and see what happens. And Adam Choice ain't too shabby back there either. They'll run the ball. They'll let Trevor Lawrence air it out and get vertical when they can. And I think with that defense, they stand an opportunity of beating Alabama because they can keep up offensively and they can surely keep up defensively and perhaps give Tua the toughest look that he might see all throughout his career outside of the game he played against Georgia in the national championship game. And finally, my team, Oklahoma, 6-1. The number 1 team, averaging 8.5 yards per play. Now, normally, we would be talking about what kind of wizardry Lincoln Riley is doing to hit that number, and then you looked up and you saw number 2 is Alabama, and that is scaring the hell out of everybody, and rightfully so, because now a team that prided itself on defense and was, above average offensively is now A+ offensively and A+ defensively, which is leading many to say who this year stands a chance of even touching this team. And I've touched on a few of these that it wouldn't shock anybody to see beat Alabama. But the thinking with Oklahoma is because the scoring defense is so bad, number 60 in the country, but also show that it can improve and improve in a big way with Ruffin McNeil as defensive coordinator with the game it played against TCU, perhaps enough defensive adjustments can be made to just keep pace with Alabama so that you might turn this game into a glorified basketball game, kind of like the Lakers in Houston before LeBron James and Chris Paul and Brandon Ingram started throwing hands at each other, and we had, 2004 Malice at the Palace, except it wasn't because don't nobody really fight in the NBA because the NBA, well, it ain't the NBA that I grew up with. And I get people calling it soft, but it's not really soft. It's just a different culture. Fights don't mean the same thing. They don't mean what they used to mean. They're just they're fights and it's fine. But if you can get into a 143 versus 140 game with Alabama, that's a game that Oklahoma can win. And we know that because that's the kind of game that Oklahoma got into with Georgia. And it took 2 overtimes for Georgia to win that game. And I think the reason that you might say is different is that Jake Fromm ain't Tua Tagovailoa, And Tua Tagovailoa ain't no Jake Fromm. That dude can actually put the ball anywhere he wants, anytime he wants. And it doesn't matter who the running backs are because they're all good. And it doesn't matter who the wide receivers are because they're all good. And the offensive linemen. And you get where I'm going with this. So I don't know that a basketball game would break out in the way that it did in the Rose Bowl. But I also know that Oklahoma will be more sound defensively and just as potent offensively. So it could be just like the Rose Bowl, in which you get a play here, you get a play there, and then you beat Alabama. But today, Clemson has the best opportunity until Oklahoma can consistently show that it's a better defensive team than the one that we've seen over the last 18 months. All right, now let's get into my conversation with Spencer Hall. Editor of Every Day Should Be Saturday, one of my favorite college football websites. Been reading it for years. I was really excited to get him on and to have this conversation with him. Let's do that now. Let's start by talking about your squad, man. The hell's going on at Florida? Because all of a sudden, they look really good.
Well, they had to look bad first. Let's be clear. This is not a team that will look good consistently for 4 quarters. Maybe not even 3. They just have to hope that the 2 and change that they can do comes at the exact right time. So if you go down to 3 to Vanderbilt, then you better have a good backloaded quarter and a half to 2 quarters of solid performance behind that. Fortunately, they did. I don't know if you noticed this, but as a Florida fan, they got over 500 yards of offense in that game. That, I don't remember the last time that happened against an FBS opponent for Florida. I think the answer is that when Florida makes mistakes, they're still pretty big ones, but they're capable of making it up, and not necessarily just out of efficiency. You know, there were a couple of long plays and maybe a legitimate rushing attack in place there, and if a team can do that, then you're functional. You're basically always judging, or I'm always judging teams by, okay, not what they are compared to X, but do they do the thing that they're trying to do well, right? And what Florida's trying to do is run the ball, move it when it has to through the air, and get first downs. That's really where they're at, and that's what they're trying to do. And for the most part, that's what they've managed to do. If you told me that the team would be bowl eligible at this point in the season, I would have accused you of being blind drunk on it. That's not where we're at. That's actually a legitimate thing now.
Well, I mean, it's not just legitimate. I mean, look, they got that win against an LSU team that everybody agrees is pretty good. I would make an argument that that's the best team in college football based on resume and what we see from a defense that we've come to associate with LSU. And I just love that that's Ed Orgeron's defense because, well, that man is a movie character. But also, I watched that Vandy game because it was on. And I'm going, what happens if Pirine can't run? Like, that was the other thing that kind of, I mean, I saw the offense and I saw, them basically impose their will, as they say, on Vanderbilt, and Derek Mason was doing everything he could to stem the tide. But also, I'm watching Pat Shurmur in the stands going, I wonder if Kyle fits into an Eli Manning jersey. But I just wonder what happens if that running game disappears.
Well, if it disappeared, they actually had 200-yard rushers. Now, I'm much more concerned about if they get injuries along an offensive line that's held up pretty well so far.
Right.
But also haven't had to deal with serious injury. That's generally, I think the most damaging injury besides quarterback, or maybe as damaging, is if you get injured on the offensive line. And if you can keep everyone upright there, you're going to be okay, right? Maybe not great, but you're going to be okay. That goes for everyone. Like, if you want to know what the secret to the collapse at Auburn is, it's not having an offensive line. It's the most important thing on your team. I mean, that includes your defensive line, because if you have a defensive line that might be light or fast, I can protect them by keeping the ball for a long time. But I'm going to need an offensive line to do that. And they're going to have to dominate, or at least do the thing they're assigned to do, right? Like if they're a triple option team, they may not be the best imaginable offensive line, but they're going to do cut blocks, and they're going to mess with you the entire game, and they're going to outperform because I put them in the right position. So if you want to know
Okay, all right. So now we've gone from this team won't be bowl eligible to this team is not just.
I'm just as surprised as you are.
Oh, okay,
Done.
all right. Hey man, I don't. Well, I guess for me, you saying that you didn't expect that team to be bowl eligible at the start of the season is me saying that I expected Mike Stoops to retire in 2041 as the defense coordinator at Oklahoma, and then he got fired in midseason, and we're the only people that are happy about it because everybody else in the Big 12 was like, God, come on, man, like that was our way of getting into the game, and I wonder what that says about my squad. I've been very vocal about how much I don't like Mike Stoops as a defensive coordinator. I haven't liked him as a defensive coordinator since 2003. And I think he lost his job at Arizona because the defense was so terrible. But on the flip side, now I'm wondering what we're going to look like and what people expect of us going forward because, this conference is soft and it's garbage and I hate it. But just as somebody who's casually watching what Oklahoma does, what do you see? What do you like?
I mean, I think that with that offense, you are in every game. And with that defense under Stoops, the opponent was in every game, potentially, right? Like that, you were basically a quarterback injury away from being a pretty mediocre team. And by mediocre, I mean average. That's what mediocre means. A lot of times people go, oh, man, this team's so mediocre. Well, and not just mediocre actually just means medium, right? It means
right
in the middle.
Right.
It means that, you're an okay team.
Right.
Not bad, but you're not good. And that was a mediocre defense, and I think given what Oklahoma is on the offensive side of the ball, special teams, what they are historically, there's no reason to have mediocre at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's been good before, and if you've been good for as long as Oklahoma's been and had that kind of commitment to football, it's always about whether you're willing to do all of the extremely silly things as an adult in order to have a good college football team that you're going to need, right? Like, it's never, oh, man, it's about recruiting. Okay, parse that out for me. Let's peel that back. Well, what does it mean to have really good recruiting? It means obsessing and figuring out a way to get benefits and convincing 17-year-olds to come for as little money as possible to play football for not free, but definitely not for the compensation they deserve.
Yeah, we need a G League. That's what we need. And that's gonna ruin college football. But we need a G League. Like, I continue to think about that because one of the things that we bemoan as OU fans is, we'll talk about recruiting and we can recruit the hell out of the offensive side of the ball, right? Because we're so damn good. But defensively, everybody's like, yo, where's the beef on the line? Well, it's in the SEC. It's at Ohio State. Okay, why don't we get that? Because we don't win with defense. Because that's not who we are. That's not what we say that we do. And that's coming back.
I don't know if that. Do you think that's an argument?
I do, because check it out. I look at our defensive line, right? And I see Neville Gallimore, who's an athletic freak. And I see Dilla Famatau, I see Marquise Overton, I see guys that can play, but I don't see guys crushing in the center of the line the way that I see them doing it everywhere else that is competing for the college football playoff every year. So yeah, I think so, because I look at the defensive tackles at Florida, I look at the defensive tackles at LSU, at Georgia, I look at how Ohio State really ain't gonna miss Nick Bosa, and go, why isn't that at Oklahoma? Oh, well, we just don't get those guys. Okay, what do you got to do to go get them then? Well, you got to convince them to come over here as opposed to go to that other place. Well, isn't that recruiting?
That's recruiting. I still know. I don't think there's anything inherently damaging to a defensive line, to a offense. I don't think there's anything inherently damaging about having a good offense and recruiting. I don't.
Okay.
Like that. There are really good defensive players who have gone to schools that are traditionally noted for defense. Most notably right now, Ed Oliver. Ed Oliver, the 5-star D tackle, who ended up at all places at Houston. And remind you, Houston scored 90 points in a regulation football game once, all right? In FBS, they did that. And I
Right.
But that happens, and I don't think that's the standard. I don't think that's usual, but you can get good players if you're playing out of a run and gun kind of system. By that I don't mean starter. I just mean
Right.
you are known for scoring points. That was something with Oklahoma until like the late Stoops era. And I don't know what happened after Tommy Harris left. Right? I don't know what the deal was with recruiting D linemen. Oklahoma can get them. Oklahoma can get quality defenders. Right? There's no programmatic thing that prevents 270-pound men who can run a 4.7 and jump 38 inches in the air from coming to your program.
Well, my argument would my argument would be, since Gerald McCoy, you'd be right. I'd say that Brent Venables was able to bring that guy in along with Jeremy Beal. But also, when you look at who's playing in the NFL, they ain't playing. They're not. When you talk about who's getting drafted in the first, second rounds, at least, that ain't been Oklahoma for like 10 years. So that's what I'm talking about. And also, when you brought up Ed Oliver. Hey man, he was down to OU in Houston, right? And just didn't like what OU was selling, right? So when you tell me that we can get that kind of guy, well, yeah, we missed on that guy, right?
There's one very important factor in all this because
Okay.
always working against it. If you want to know what the truth is that OU has to recruit out of Texas first, right?
Right.
Some national guys.
Right.
They got to recruit out of Texas, and usually out of North Texas. They get guys out of Houston. They get guys out of Austin, etc. But they need to get people who are close because the most important factor in any recruiting, be this OU or anyone else, is whether you can drive home to mom in 2 hours. 2 hours. It's a 2-hour radius for recruiting. It's the most important factor in determining where somebody will go.
They will always go closer. And Ed went closer to home, and that's not shocking. What's shocking is that he went to Houston, right?
Right.
You would think you'd go to A&M, and you'd go maybe LSU, but no, that's something that OU will struggle with at times because you have to explain how to get somebody to Norman.
And if you look at a lot of that defensive talent, a lot of that, especially along the D-line,
for instance, LSU doesn't miss on any big dudes all Louisiana. Because you know what? It's hard to find the carbohydrate. The sheer rice-based carbohydrate diet. Used to it, right?
in another state, it's just not the
same, right? They're not going to miss on bulk. They're too used to it, right? Maybe Alabama will get them, but I guarantee you, it's not after introducing them to several fine Papa Do's kind of restaurants in the area. It happens.
Well, I mean, okay, let's follow that through. 200-mile radius, right? It's like about that to Dallas. All right, so if we talked about what kind of kids come out of Dallas, well, you're talking about DeSoto, right? That's in that area. You're also talking about Skyline. These are places where you can go and you can get kids. And I hear you about roping it off. I hear you about that. But I also want to take into account, for instance, the football talent that comes out of Louisiana on a regular basis, right? Because I was, OU plays TCU this weekend, and I was amazed to find out that there are two guys playing defense for Gary Patterson right now that either didn't get a Power 5 offer, right, or didn't get a Big 12 offer. So, I mean, that's the other part about it. It's just kind of, I would even say widen the net, but, I mean, you're right in that this is what we've been doing, right? We've been missing on those kids because, man, it just bugs me that Ben Banigou was a transfer from ULM, and OU played ULM twice in the last 5 years, and I was just going, how did we miss on that kid? But anyway.
You miss on them because of talent evaluation. You miss on them because you hire one recruiter who doesn't quite get things done for a while. Okay, for instance, Florida recruited all over the place under Urban Meyer, really good, and hired a dude who's still working, who wasn't, occasionally just missed on guys like Randall Cobb, the guy that Urban Meyer hired
to recruit Kentucky. Just miss
Right.
Randall Cobb.
Right.
I don't know how you miss Randall Cobb.
Right.
But if Florida had offered Randall Cobb would have come to Florida. He wasn't going to Kentucky at the time. And that's how Randall Cobb, who's an outstanding NFL grade talent, ended up at Kentucky, right? The reason that Gary Patterson has guys who weren't given Big 12 offers starting on his defense, possibly injury, I don't know the case with those two dudes, but more than likely, Gary does his own eval.
Yeah.
And is a great evaluator of talent.
Yeah.
And also has a pretty unique defensive system where I think you can get guys in place who don't necessarily measure up to what you would consider to be, hey, here's your classic 3 technique, right?
Right.
You get guys who he's getting for his system, right? Which, again, is very unique. Like, I think that he's one of the few college dudes where you could go, I think he has defenders who I look at and go, yeah, that's a system cornerback, right? That's, we say that about quarterbacks all the time. I think Patterson's one of the few guys who you can go, his system is so dominant that I think sometimes it makes players look better than they are. There's one other person like that, and it's Nick Saban.
I mean, I'm not going to refute that in that. I'm also just going to add that he can close a kid in that I go back to the Ty Summers thing of, yo, he was going to play quarterback at Rice, and you convinced that kid to play linebacker at TCU. Yep. That's not just evaluation. That is also talking game, because I'm thinking about that myself. I'm going, wait a second. I'd be quarterback at a place where I'm probably going to run the show, and I'm probably going to have an opportunity to run the conference if I'm good. Or I can go play linebacker at Texas Christian in the Big 12? That doesn't make much sense to me. And yet, Ty Summers has...
It makes sense. It makes sense if you trust him. Like, everybody's got a great reputation as somebody who can size up a high school player and go, you're doing this.
Right.
But what I really think you should do is that, Like, he can, like, legitimately, David Patterson can say, yeah, I've had a guy who was all-conference at quarterback and wide receiver. Same team. Right?
Yeah.
Like, he's a guy who just sees talent and then tries to find a place for it, which is one of the reasons. I know TCU's not doing really great this year. Go look at what's on their roster. Go look at those skill players against Ohio State. They just look smaller. And you go, oh, I forgot. TCU constantly has to recruit uphill.
Right. And they have to be fast if they're going to be small, and we see that play out.
Yep.
Now I want to switch to fun teams in college football. Some that we know about, some that we don't. The most fun team to me to date in college football is Kansas State. I enjoy Merlin and his merry band of JUCO rejects really just kind of showing up to a fight, saying, "We see the cinder blocks, we're gonna hit you with it," and that's how we're gonna play football. I just enjoy that a Kansas State team exists in the Big 12 in such a way that we'll play sound defense, but what we're really want to do is we're gonna run the clock and we're gonna run the ball and we're just gonna grind you, and that's just not something that we see in the Big 12 except with him. Also, Bill Snyder's still a guy that will pull the quarterback, put another guy in that nobody on the staff wanted to see play quarterback, and say deal with it. It's just that's so much fun to me.
I enjoy watching somebody get old man ball. I would hate watching if it was my team, but I enjoy seeing Bill Snyder work because inevitably Bill Snyder will do something in a game where I go, yeah, that would have won a game in the 50s, and it's working now, right? Like, they do that all the time. They just want a glorified single wing sometimes and dare you to stop it. And most of the time, you can't. He's kind of amazing like that. Hayden Fry hired him at Iowa as his offensive coordinator because I quote, I don't want that bastard torturing me anymore, so I'll hire him. Right? That was what Hayden Fry said about Bill Snyder. He's probably just the meanest offensive coordinator on the planet. Really fun teams right now coming down the stretch. I love watching Syracuse play because Eric Dungy is just like the definition of like a great college football try-hard quarterback.
Oh man,
he's not real great, but man, Eric Dungy tries real
real hard all the time, and that team runs a real fast offense, and they get to like the 10 or the 5 real quick, and then after that, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen, man? Crazy. Like that's the unpredictability of watching Syracuse. They were in the red zone, and you go, okay, cool. How are you going to get into the end zone? I'm not real sure with any of these guys how you're going to do it, but I love watching you try.
Well,
and a lot of times they succeed.
No, so I watch Custis out there, and I'm going, okay, fade. Okay, not fade. Okay, fade now. Okay, all right. Yo, you got a mismatch every time that dude wide is wide right. What are we doing? And then Eric Dungy, to your point, I just always thought of him as sweaty. I don't really like he's like if we were playing, Call of Duty or Destiny or PvP, he'd be the guy that everybody's making fun of because he's just sweating over the controller the whole time. And I enjoy that. I'm glad you brought that up because that's not really a trait.
You know the Bill. If you like Bill Snyder, right?
Right.
Like your other prescription. If you like Bill Snyder of the ACC is cut. David Cutcliffe. Like, watch the way Duke plays and try to call their plays. Just sit there. I mean, you can go run past if you want to. You can actually try to guess plays, but I want you to try to do it because most of the time you will be wrong, even on simple things, and that is why watching Cutcliffe is the best because the way he calls plays is so mean. Like
he hates his quarterback.
You go.
He hates his quarterback is what it looked like. Like I watched the Army game, and I was watching that kid just run draw over and over again, and I'm going, he's gonna get killed. Like I mean, and it's not that he's not sturdy. It's not that he's doing it wrong. It's just like between him, like he reminded me of what they do with Nick Fitzgerald at Mississippi State and what they did with Colin Klein at Kansas State. Because no, I can't call it because I'm always expecting that dude to put his life on the line for Duke football. No, I can't call that. Like, how do you convince a quarterback to do that regularly? At one point, don't you say that you want to throw the ball?
Oh, listen, the best thing in the world about him calling that play over and over again is this: he's calling it because it works.
God,
it's the Spurrier thing where hey. I called that fade like 12 times in this game. Guess what? 13. And then the 14th time, you like it 15th time? We're going to give it. It's something that, like, I think, is forgotten a lot. It's kind of a lost art of calling the same play over and over again. But, guys like Spurrier and, practicing coaches like Leach, yeah, man, Leach will call that play all day. Which play? The one that works? Like, even if the quarterback's like, you sure you want to call that again? Yeah, man, he's going to call it again. Because chances are it'll be open.
Well, I mean, on the one hand, I get that, right? Because if pick and roll works, right? To make a basketball reference. But on the other hand, like, I look at Wisconsin, and I always feel bad for the running back. I know that he's going to be a Heisman candidate because the dude is the offense. We're going to run him up the middle. That's what we're going to do. We're going to run him off tackle. That's what we're going to do. And it might not even work. That's the other part about that because those guys will also just keep calling that play because it's worked in the past. Right? And I think about the kids when they play or want to play at the next level, and I'm going, you're useless now because, Paul Chris just ran you into the ground, Jonathan Taylor. Melvin Gordon, you got one more year.
That's for carries, right? And I get that.
Okay.
Like Derrick Henry, like you'll notice something that if you commit as a running back to the University of Alabama, you're not going to be getting the carries that Derrick Henry would have gotten, right, under Kiffin. Because I think one part of the pitch is that, hey, we're not going to wear you out because you're going to the NFL, right? Right? That's your goal. That's why you're at Alabama. There's no other reason to spend 4 years in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, right? Other than I want to go to the NFL. It's not a bad or an ugly town. It's not its own attraction, right? It's not Austin.
No.
You know?
No.
It's not even Norman, if we're being like real, okay? And that's your idea, right? And one of the things that they'll do is they'll go, hey man, I'm a running back. I'm well aware my career's short, time is fleeting, and I'm very mortal, and I only get so many shots at this. And they'll go, oh yeah, Dwayne doesn't work here, right? Or Blaine doesn't work here.
Right.
Blaine, he did that. Damian Harris, I think at this point in his career, doesn't have as many carries as Derrick Henry had in one season.
Ugh, goodness.
I read that somewhere. But yeah, you won't get that kind of mileage. Now I will say this. The one place that you will get wear and tear at Alabama is you will get wear and tear in practice, because the incoming medical exams that scouts get off of Alabama is way more wear and tear on those guys. Where does Alabama's excellence lie? It lies in a whole lot of practice reps and 1-2-1s.
That's interesting, because there are coaches that refuse to do that. And I mean, also we're talking about philosophies and whatnot. I had a question for you that I didn't have an answer for when I went to go look myself. Who is the Colorado School of Minds this season? Who's the team doing the stuff that everybody looks around and goes, you can do that in a football game? I didn't know you could do that.
That's a really interesting. I think that the answer is multiple. I think there's more than one team that's sort of pulling off some really interesting stuff. I think a lot of the stuff that, or at least maybe he doesn't give us credit for this, but Elias Drinkwitz at NC State did a lot of really interesting things offensively. He was at Boise, and he's turned Ryan Finley into one of the nation's top 10 passers, and just statistically in terms of the impact. And he's doing that without a whole lot of talent around it. I don't want to slam NC State's roster, but they are overperforming, and one reason they're overperforming is that people in the NFL still stuff from Lincoln Riley all day long. All day long. A lot of that stuff ends up in NFL playbooks the next week. Andy Reid, I guarantee you, Andy Reid watches every bit of Oklahoma game tape. That just feels like a given, right? Because Lincoln Riley is that creative.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's I mean, as an OU fan, you're kind of scared of that, because I watched. It was Kansas City playing, I want to say Denver, and I saw that play yesterday. I saw it yesterday, and then you'll watch, what Philly did, and they ran a variation of that in the Rose Bowl, didn't they? Which is also coming out of Chad Morris's playbook. But yeah, I mean, I honestly didn't know that you could do that kind of stuff at Oklahoma and be productive, because it requires spreading the ball around in a way that a lot of big-time college football programs just won't do, right? You depend on 2-3 different players, right? If you're lucky, it's a running back and a wide receiver. But at OU, Lincoln has been able to maximize skill sets that I didn't know that some of these kids had. Like D.D. Westbrook, as much as I liked him, is an undersized wide receiver, and he was a JUCO transfer. And all of a sudden, wait a second, you can actually just throw bombs to this guy all day? That works? Oh yeah, well we can do that because
with the right scheme and the right footwork, man.
Right.
I think that's something that I think a lot of undersized wide receivers will play is if you have a guy, it's one of the most undercoached positions on the field is wide receiver. A lot of extremely athletic positions sometimes. I think coaches rely more on motivation and talent than they do technique. And also because a lot of receivers are so talented that most of the time they've been able to just get away with talent, right? But smaller receivers who are extremely technically gifted and work very hard at details, those guys, they're going to be open all day. Some of the most productive quarterback or most productive receivers who are under 6 feet tall or right at that 6 feet mark, if you look at them, they're not working underneath. Some of them are catching balls way downfield. Stu Smith was a monster downfield, right? The NFL is kind of having a reckoning right now with the way the game is played. You really can't. We're not going to be able to hold people to under 3 yards a play or 4 yards a play, whatever your target is, right?
Right.
We got to rely on turnovers. I mean, that's something that
not just spread offenses, but everybody who ever coached for a run and shoot team had to deal with, right? And I think they thought that was going away when the run and shoot kind of fizzled out in the NFL. And, that's not the case, right? Like now everybody has to deal with this. And the way that you deal with that is, sort of doing a lot of stuff David Gibbs does, which is, pressure defenses that are designed to cause turnovers and are okay with surrendering some yardage, knowing that the offense is going to get it back, and it's going to lead to, it's going to lead to the kind of pressure that gets the ball in their hands.
We somehow have got to a place where David Gibbs is a defensive genius, and with that, I want to know if there's anything that you have thoughts on for the next 2 minutes, because I want to get you out of here because you've already given me more time than I expected you to be able to give. Is there something that we're missing in college football? Like fans were just glancing over?
I'm sorry, what?
Just as fans that we're glancing over, like does anybody know that this is happening?
I think we're missing the kind of, demolition of this particular playoff system. Like, I think that's probably going to happen soon. Because the appetite is still there for more games, and because we're going to, we already got, look at this, everyone complained about the FBS, right?
Right.
Or everyone complained about the BCS once you got to a game that pitted Alabama and LSU against each other. It happened to be a terrible game, right?
Right.
But that was one of the factors that convinced people that, this sport is, super top-heavy, and it's top-heavy in the South. And in the Sun Belt generally, we need more balance. So we'll open it up to 4. Well, what was the playoff last year? Alabama versus Georgia. That's worse.
It's way worse.
Those two teams are actually closer. and you've ended up with Alabama Clemson, and you've ended up, it hasn't changed anything. So in order to introduce a little more randomness and, something that is an illusion of parity, we don't have parity, and by design, we can't really have parity until a lot of incentives change, but the playoffs hasn't really done a lot to break that up, and we're getting a lot of the same results. So I think that'll shake up sooner rather than later, especially if the TV money's right.
Well, I can only hope, because I want to live in a world where every team that's undefeated has an opportunity to compete for the title. Like UCF is on pace to do what they did last year, and everybody's gonna look at them like cute. So thank you so much, Spencer. I really do appreciate this.
I didn't even know. My pleasure.
That was Spencer Hall of SB Nation's Every Day Should Be Saturday. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.